Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving straight into a fascinating exploration of one of the most vividly descriptive and structurally profound chapters of Scripture out there, Surah Ar-Rahman. Our goal today isn't just to do a textbook reading of the text. Instead, we're going to impartially unpack its rich imagery, its dual narratives, and the incredible cosmic and earthly balance it presents. We're going to look closely at how this text uses really powerful contrasts, from the mathematically precise orbits of the stars all the way to the ultimate fates of sentient beings, to deliver a message that has resonated for centuries. Here is the roadmap for our journey today. We'll start with creation and cosmic balance, head into Earth's countless blessings, tackle a very frequently repeated question, look at the terrifying scene of judgment, and finally, wrap up with the rewards for the people of heaven.
All right, part 1, creation and cosmic balance.
So the crucial point here is how the text immediately grounds the entire universe in two massive concepts: profound mercy and absolute justice. Right from the opening word, Ar-Rahman, which means the most merciful, we learn that this divine source isn't just creating things. He's a teacher who actually gave humanity the ability to speak and communicate. But paired directly with that mercy is the mizan, the scale of justice. The scripture tells us that the sky was raised high, and this ultimate balance was established with a very strict, specific command. Do not transgress this balance. When you weigh, weigh with exact justice. Don't fall short. It's an amazing link between cosmic physics and everyday human morality. And this flawlessly illustrates the mathematical order of creation. The source describes the sun and the moon running on precisely calculated courses. It's a universe of absolute predictability and design. And I find this next part absolutely fascinating. It's this poetic pairing of the stars way up in the vast sky and the trees right here on Earth. The text actually notes that both are in a state of prostration and submission to this universal law. Literally everything has a role, and everything plays its part in perfect harmony.
Moving right along to part 2, Earth's countless blessings. Let's see how this cosmic balance extends down to the ground we walk on.
The text paints this incredibly vivid sensory picture of bounties that are just freely provided for all living beings. It points out that the earth is spread out accommodatingly, not just for us humans, but for all creatures. And the details here are amazing. It doesn't just say food, it specifically highlights date palms heavily laden with sheaths, grains that are perfectly protected inside their husks, and sweet-smelling, fragrant flowers. It's a beautifully crafted environment meant to sustain life while completely appealing to our senses of taste, sight, and smell. Now, check out the stark elemental duality used here to describe the origins of sentient life. The scripture explicitly calls out two creations. Humanity is described as being made from ringing clay, much like baked pottery, so something very solid, earthen, and grounded. Then, on the exact opposite end of the elemental spectrum, you have the jinn. They are described as being created from a smokeless, leaping flame of fire. It's just a brilliant visual contrast, right? The heavy, echoing earth versus the weightless, untamable energy of fire. We also get another beautiful contrast, highlighting the sheer, awe-inspiring power of the oceans. The source describes a really wild natural phenomenon where two bodies of water flow together, yet they're separated by an invisible, impassable barrier they just cannot cross. And from these mysterious depths come precious ocean treasures, specifically beautiful pearls and coral. Riding right on top of these massive bodies of water are human creations, these majestic ships that the text actually compares to towering mountains, standing elevated in the sea. It highlights an incredible synergy between divine provision and human navigation. That brings us to part 3, a frequently repeated question. If you take only one core thing away from today's explainer, let it be this recurring refrain. Then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? This question is quite literally the heartbeat of the scripture. It gets repeated right after almost every single blessing, fact, and warning, and it addresses both humans and jinn, the clay and the fire, directly challenging them to reflect on their ultimate reliance. It's basically asking, how could you possibly exhibit ingratitude when faced with such overwhelming divine generosity? Then, the narrative abruptly shifts our perspective. After vividly outlining all this beauty of life, it drops a stark reality check. Every single creature on Earth will perish. It draws a definitive hard line between our temporary mortal existence and the eternal, permanent nature of the Creator. The source emphasizes that only the majestic and noble essence of the Lord will remain, pointing out that everyone in the heavens and earth must ask of him, and that he is occupied with matters every single day. Which leads us directly into part 4, the terrifying scene of judgment. Here, the tone shifts dramatically from bountiful earthly blessings to an inescapable warning. The scripture issues a direct challenge to the assemblies of humans and jinn. It says, hey, if you think you can escape accountability, try to pass beyond the zones of the heavens and the earth. But it immediately confirms that you cannot pierce these boundaries without supreme authority. And if you try to flee, the text warns that clear flames of fire and blinding smoke will be unleashed upon you, leaving you utterly defenseless. It paints a picture of absolute impossibility when it comes to evading divine accountability.
And this is where we see the terrifying, step-by-step reality of Judgment Day. The imagery is visceral. First, the sky, which earlier was described as raised high and perfectly balanced, literally splits apart, turning a strange, rosy red color compared to the dregs of oil. On that day, sinners won't even need to be questioned. They are going to be instantly recognized by the sheer terror on their faces. The text describes them being violently seized by their forelocks, the front of their hair, and by their feet. Ultimately, they wander endlessly between the hell they previously denied and springs of brutally boiling hot water. It is a drastic, harrowing contrast to those peaceful nature images we saw earlier.
But the text doesn't end in despair. Let's move to part 5, rewards for the people of heaven. For those who actually maintained the cosmic and moral balance in their earthly lives, and who lived actively mindful of that ultimate reckoning, the text describes a phenomenal reward. It promises not just one, but 2 magnificent paradisiacal gardens. And this specific reward is reserved for the individual who lived in awe and genuinely feared the moment they would have to stand before their Lord. The imagery here is lush, perfectly balanced, and incredibly detailed. We are not talking about your average backyard garden. The scripture describes spreading branches absolutely loaded with variety, nourished by 2 freely flowing water springs. And get this, every single fruit you could desire is presented in perfect pairs. The inhabitants are described as reclining in ultimate comfort on beds lined with fine silk brocade, with the fruits hanging incredibly low, effortlessly within reach. Sharing this space are chaste companions with lowered gazes, whose beauty is compared to pure, untouched rubies and coral. It is the ultimate sanctuary, totally soothing, and the exact opposite of those boiling waters from the previous scene. So all these incredible descriptions really boil down to a single, profound question posed in the scripture. Is the reward for good anything but good? It is a simple yet deeply comforting theological promise. If you maintain the balance, act with justice, and live mindfully, the ultimate return is an absolute reflection of that goodness. It's just absolute fairness, universally applied. But the text actually goes even further, expanding on the vastness of paradise. Below those first 2 gardens, it describes 2 additional gardens with their own unique, deeply calming aesthetic. These are characterized by deeply dark green, rich, lush foliage. Instead of gently flowing springs, these have 2 heavily gushing springs. The text gets super specific again, mentioning abundant fruits including date palms and pomegranates. The inhabitants recline peacefully on green cushions and beautiful fine carpets, alongside beautiful, righteous companions who are honorably guarded in pavilions. The attention to detail here is relentless in portraying total tranquility. And predictably, but with massive impact, the scripture returns to its heartbeat, placing this exact refrain here, right after detailing the ultimate eternal rewards of paradise, is an incredibly powerful concluding reminder. It asks the listener one final time, after seeing the perfection of the cosmos, the blessings of the earth, the reality of justice, and the unimaginable beauty of heaven, then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. We've seen a universe perfectly balanced, from the predictable orbits of the sun and stars to the mysterious depths of meeting seas. But the text makes it absolutely clear that our physical existence is incredibly fragile and entirely temporary. Knowing all this and seeing the absolute scale of justice waiting at the end, how does the ultimate transience of life change your own perspective on gratitude? How will you choose to answer for the countless blessings you interact with every single day? Something to really think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we will see you next time.